founding fathers knew it wasn't going to last. So, but we'll get to that in a minute. What then would be the reason to allow people in Maine to own guns?
Well, first of all, there were many states that had slave populations. New York had a big slave population. A lot of the northern states did. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, etc. And the reason that the militias had to be kept intact, and it was the militias that were being armed. It wasn't the individuals. It was the militias that were being armed. And by the way, if you were in a militia, you had to buy the gun, and you had to use your own money. That was also part of the way it worked. But it was the militias that controlled the slaves, and the fear was that with a national army, if you had a country, that's what you'd have. They could disband the militias or use the militias for reasons, of their own, to suppress an Indian uprising in another state, et cetera, et cetera. But if you really are interested, there's a fantastic paper written called The Hidden History of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I've read that.
Yeah, and to me, it's clear. If we didn't have slavery, we wouldn't have the Second Amendment. Can you imagine, let's say you and I were sitting down to start a country, and, you said to me, gee, this great idea, let's have a country. It sounds a lot of good things will come from it. And I said to you, yeah, but what if we become tyrannical? What if we're not good guys and we become tyrannical? And you said, well, that's a good point. So why don't we arm the people so they can overthrow us? I mean, it's ludicrous to think that conversation ever happened. This was all about slavery, and that's why we have it.
So what you're saying is that in 1789, in the early 1800s, that the sole purpose of the Second Amendment was to keep a slave population in check, and that was the intent of the Founding Fathers.
Absolutely.
Did you know that most of the signers of the Declaration were against a standing army?
Yes, of course they were.
And the standing army at the time of 1789 numbered about 1,300 for a population of 3 million. And their idea was twofold. One, that the country would be defended by its population of free men, and that it would be they would be able to arm themselves and not be disarmed, because they didn't believe in a standing army, because a standing army could be used by a tyrannical government to subjugate its citizens, and that's not what they wanted. So I did read that one paper about the slavery thing to put that spin on it, and again, we're going to have to disagree. I think the Second Amendment is around to make sure that as a constitutional republic, that we, as the people of that republic, have a right to defend ourselves from not only home invasions now, but back then the Indians, highway robbers, anybody that would do our individual person harm. But that's an interesting take on it. I wouldn't have thought to put a racial spin on it. So.
Well, it's good to share. That's why we're talking. To me, what's persuasive is that at the first Constitutional Convention, which went 8-4 for 8 states for the government, for the country, and 4 against, the words Second Amendment didn't exist. So it's hard for me to say that in the 2 years that passed, suddenly everybody had different thinking.
Well, the first draft that didn't pass,
we have it. Right?
The first draft that didn't pass, the first draft that didn't pass, read, it was the original draft, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And then the little semicolon, a well-armed and well-regulated militia being the best security of a free state, but no person religiously scrupulous of bearing arms shall be compelled to render military service. And how that reads is the best way to defend our country is by an armed citizenry that can be called under muster, but nobody is compelled to volunteer to do so.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that they had several iterations of it before they came up with the final language. What's also interesting is that most of the state militias weren't very good at what they did.
Well, they don't practice. You got to practice.
They weren't so hot. But be that as it may, we have it. And we have it, and I think it covers both sides. I think it says yep. Especially after Heller, now that we have an individual right, yep, people can have guns at home for self-defense, and yep, we can regulate them. So, it's balanced. It's balanced the way it should be, but, it gets unbalanced as people advance their own particular agendas.
Well, I tell you what, we got to take a quick commercial break. I'm on the Ring Central Celebrity Hotline with Eliot Fineman. He is the CEO of the National Gun Victims Action Council. Remember, tonight's broadcast brought to you by Eat24.com, and it just flew out of my mind. Computers. Centex Computers. Shuffling my papers around. Centex Computers here in Hutto. Mr. Fineman, go ahead and mute up, and we'll be back after these messages. I'm Mike Allen. This is the Armed Radio Global Network, and you are on the air.
Hi, now I know you hear Joe Rocks on their weekly restaurant reviews on Night Talk, 10 p.m. Eastern. And boy, these two like to eat. Right, boys? Well, here's something to review right from your house. Eat24. That's right, Eat24.com. With over 25,000 restaurants for you to choose from when you're hungry. Many in your area. So review that, boys. Eat24.com. Click, order, and eat. Eat24.com.
Who's the Candy Man? Why, Brian Smiley, of course. Brian Smiley Candy Company. There you'll find aisles and aisles of every candy imaginable. Brian Smiley Candy Company is located at 35 Industrial Parkway in Woburn, Massachusetts. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30 p.m. or call them at 781-935-1660. Brian Smiley is the Candy Man.
Is your wife wicked hot? Or is she just cold? Do you just want to take a hot shower? Call Savino Mechanical for all your heating, hot water, and cooling needs. Savino Mechanical has been servicing Greater Boston and Southern New Hampshire for over a quarter century. Quality 24-hour service, reasonable rates, satisfaction guaranteed, licensed and insured. And remember, at Savino Mechanical, we are not comfortable until you are. Call Savino Mechanical today at 1-855-624-4280. That's 1-855-624-4280. Savino Mechanical.
Attention World of Tank gamers. Armed and its affiliated divisions are recruiting entire clans and tankers. Armed, the largest and most progressive gaming community on the World of Tanks gaming platform. Now on 3 servers. To join, visit www.armedtanks.net or #NeedAToaster. Toast that, bitches.
All right, we are back. Please welcome back to the show on the Ring Central Celebrity Hotline, Mr. Eliot Fineman of the National Gun Victims Action Council. You can reach him at, I know you put your, go ahead and give us your webpage here. I know I had it written down here.
Well, it's www.gunvictimsaction.org. That's our website. So you can reach us at www.gunvictimsaction.org and come visit.
All right, well, we discussed the Second Amendment. I wanted to get that out of the way first. And again, I don't agree with that at all. I've read quite extensively the mission statements, the Federalist Papers, the thought process. I tried to get into the thought process of our founding fathers, and they were afraid of a totalitarian dictatorial government being able to subjugate the people, which we're kind of allowing right now, but that's a whole other discussion for another day. You'd made a statement, and I want to expand on it a little bit, about home defense and owning firearms for home defense and hunting, which is a sport here, and that they be regulated. By regulated, what is your definition of regulation? What would be a regulated... what would be a situation where the firearm would be regulated? Is that the type and style of firearm, or registration, or what?
Well, if you ask me later what I would like to see happen, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why. The difficulty is.
Well, that's basically what I'm asking you. Is what is your goal? What would you like to see happen?
I'd like to see, for example, a regulation for guns at home that they have to be stored safely, what we call CAP, Child Access Prevention Laws. So many of the Sandy Hook horror was a function of not having smart gun triggers. Had we had smart guns, the killer could not have stolen his mother's guns and used them. We can have regulations where guns can be at home. They can provide the self-defense. The notion that you need your gun, the element of surprise always defeats the gun carrier. So if somebody is in your bedroom pointing a gun at you, the fact that you have a gun in the nightstand is meaningless. If you hear somebody downstairs making noise and you can surprise them with your gun, okay, you've defended yourself. But you don't need it. That's always the argument against smart guns. We don't have time to make them, operable. But I would have smart guns, and I would have CAP laws, and, a thing. I would have reporting of stolen guns from my home. If a gun is stolen, obviously now there's a gun out there that's in the wrong hands. So I would certainly have that, the requirement to report that. So there's a number of things that I would have,
Okay, well let's explore this. Let's explore this. You said smart guns. You're talking about like print features where if I pick up my firearm, I'm the only one that can shoot it. Right. Now, what if I have a family? Well, what if I have a family and I'm not home, but I'm not married anymore, but let's say if I had a wife and a child who was old enough and trained with a firearm, and somebody was trying to break in and they had time to retrieve a firearm, but it won't fire because I have to be there to fire it.
Well, they have technology now, Mike, that allows you to program multiple shooters in so that, you could program in your wife's fingerprint and your oldest trained child's fingerprint as long as, and yours also. But there's a very real reason. Again, we're going to, go in different paths. There's a real reason why we can't get smart guns passed, and it has nothing to do with being able to defend yourself quickly at home. And the reason is that the sales to the criminal market, the gun industry has been studied in depth, and sales to the criminal market represent 25% of gun sales, of the gun industry sales every year. 25%.
So 25% of the guns that are sold by Kimber Firearms are sold directly to people who are not allowed to own firearms.
Well, I don't know specifically if it's that manufacturer, but what I do know...
I just picked the manufacturer. You could pick any of them. If it's 25%...
25% of the industry sales...
Let me rephrase my question. Yeah, let me rephrase my question. Let me rephrase the question.
Okay, sure.
25% of the firearms manufactured for sale are sold directly from a manufacturer or a licensed distributor directly to the criminal element. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
and where did you find that? Where did you get the 25% from?